Hasn't been about around here with the Terps not being involved this year and bracketology coming your way. Certainly a good time to be writing a book on all things afoul in the NCAA. The book is Court Justice, the inside story of my battle against the NCAA. If you have followed anything that Ed O'Bannon has done, this book will be illuminating. It is written along with Michael McCann, who's one of the great legal minds in the sports media space. Ed joins us now from the West Coast. What's going on, Ed? I remember you as a player, and certainly you've become infamous now as a justice warrior to a large degree.
Well, thank you, Nestor. It's good to be with you. What a great introduction. I appreciate that.
Well, I mean, the book is here in my hand, and I guess I feel like I have followed this thing on ESPN and the New York Times. And Ed, I'm the last journalist still reads books, right? So I sort of like this thing and this sort of a story. And the amazing part for me is when I talk to people this time of the year, every year we all get a little itchy on Thursday where these kids are all running around and everybody's making money except them. And, I turned 50 this year, so it's all occurred to me that this isn't right. And I think for a lot of people it's not right. And I think you were really the person that was ready to take on the fight and play the role of Braveheart here, man.
Well, thank you for that. I felt like this was an opportunity to say something. Really, at the time, nothing more, nothing less. It wasn't something that I had longed for as far as, filing this lawsuit. It isn't something that I've always recognized that something needed to be said and done. I didn't know what and I didn't know who. But when this opportunity presented itself by my good friend and mentor, Sonny Vaccaro, I jumped at the opportunity.
All right, so what's the upshot of this? All this, pain, suffering, bearing of souls. You've written a book. You're not going to get rich on the book, right? I mean, what is the upshot of this for you? What have you garnered out of this fight that's gone on for a decade?
It's just a passion of mine. I felt like, my parents, my mom would always say, the key to life is find something passionate about it and going for it. And that's kind of what this is. No, you're absolutely right. I'm not going to get rich off of this book and, or this lawsuit or anything like that. There was never a monetary gain in my sights. It was all about pulling back the curtain on how the NCAA does business. And I just felt like, again, this was an opportunity for me to not only say something, because a lot of people talk. Very rarely does anyone stand up and just actually do something. So this was an opportunity to do that.
I remember you playing back in the day. I think we were in the same place at the same time in Oakland. I think the Terps were seated out there in the Joe Smith era. And, I mean, when you're out there dribbling and you're doing this and you're a part of it, your family's a part of it, and you've got that U and that C and that L and that A and that blue and that gold and the Wooden, who no one loved John Wooden or reads more books about John Wooden than I. Did you feel it then that maybe this was something that wasn't right at the time? Because certainly not a lot of players have spoken up over the course of time. I mean, everyone would like to get paid, but they also want to play, right? I mean, you wanted to play when you were 19 years old, right?
Yeah, no, absolutely. When I was in college, it was all about just being on a basketball court and playing ball and enjoying my teammates, whom are my brothers to this day. I played with my brother for 2 years at UCLA. I had an absolute blast in college. I loved my college experience. Advocating for college athletes was far from my mind. I didn't feel like I was anybody to stand up and do something like that. Never even thought about it. But life happens. And you get older and you educate yourself on other things, and you see life from a different lens when you get older, and that's kind of where I am now. And so No, I absolutely loved my experience. I wasn't thinking about doing anything like this. Never thought that I'd be a part of anything like this when I was that age.
Well, the root of this whole thing, and I've had Sonny on the show 100 times over my 27 years doing radio here. I guess the root of this thing was you were sitting and watching a video game, right? Like that really is where the seed of all this happened. And you clearly had a pretty infamous 1995 tournament, as I remember it. And we were in the same place at the same time in Oakland when you beat Mississippi State. I was down there on the floor when Maryland lost to UConn, and then you guys beat UConn out there in that bracket. Right. I remember Jerry Rice was courtside watching your game from the third row that day. Yeah. And, I guess you went back and saw this cartoon image of you, quite frankly, and took a little umbrage with it. I mean, the minute you saw it, did you say, well, I'm going to fight this all the way through, or I'm going to investigate this, or was your first thought, let's call a lawyer and figure it out?
No, actually, my first thought was, oh my goodness, I'm on a video game. Like, how cool is this? Actually seeing your image on played out in a video game, because I grew up on playing in television and Atari and ColecoVision, and when video games first started.
Dude, you and I aren't that far out now. You're 72. I was born in 68. We played a lot of Pac-Man now, a lot of Donkey Kong, right? A lot of Burger Time, all that, right?
Absolutely. So to see your image on a video game meant everything to me. It was really cool. That was my first thought. My second thought came minutes later when my friend that I was hanging with, nudged me and said, "Hey, we paid $60 for this, and you didn't get anything." And that's when it really kind of hit me. But again, like when younger, there's nothing you can do about it, so you just let it go. And that's when Mr. Vaquero, a couple weeks later, that's when he called me with this idea. So that's how it started for me.
All right, so the book, and obviously, Michael McCann, a decorated guy and a guy I've had on the program, always love chatting with him. Give me the genesis of the book. Man. I mean, the book is your chance to really tell your story, in and out, and and I guess that a lot of people have sort of misconstrued or misportrayed all sorts of aspects of this thing, right?
Yeah, I think so. That was really kind of the idea, to put not only a face but an actual human behind this lawsuit, because it affected people. It affected my family. It affected the people that I'm with, that I'm around, and so I just my people that I respect and honor and have admiration for. They told me to write this book. They asked me to tell my side and let people know what I saw and how I felt and how we felt. And so I did it, again, without really much of an expectation, but just to at least tell my side and kind of fade off into the black. That was the idea.
Yeah, I got Patrick Ruby coming on this week. He wrote a Deadspin, how players could be paid. And, it's very easy to Google your name and how to fix college sports and revamp the student-athlete experience. I mean, I'm 27 years into talking about this, and I don't feel like we're any closer to change. I feel like there's still a lock grip on all this, but certainly in the last calendar year, the FBI getting involved in payments and money, this has been a dirty system long before you came along, even back to John Wooden's era. The stories are kind of legendary. At what point does the black market come above ground here, Ed? I mean, do you think we'll live long enough to see this?
I think so. That's a great question, and it's dead on accurate. I think that we're moving at a snail's pace for athletes getting paid while in school.
Well, nothing's really happening. I mean, there is no plan. The plan is to push it off. It's kind of like when kids get shot in school. We'll just push that off and push that off and push that off, and it feels like it's been getting pushed off all of my lifetime, and it doesn't really feel like there's anything landmark that's going to happen, that the money's just going to rain out and certain kids are going to get it and other kids aren't. Title IX and non-revenue sports. I mean, I deal with that with all the small universities just here in my area in Baltimore, where if they had to pay the kids at Loyola or Coppin or UMBC, I don't know how that system works either, quite frankly.
Right. It's a tough one to tackle. But at the same time, I think right now, the biggest thing is recognition. We recognize that something needs to be done. Changes need to happen. How do you make them? There's strength in numbers. Maybe the athletes can educate themselves, or their parents. Maybe they can help out and get in front of the NCAA, and that's my perfect world. They can hash this out, talk it out. You're absolutely right. Nothing's being done, but there's going to take a drastic movement for something like that to happen. Maybe another lawsuit or a boycott. I'm hearing that a lot lately. So I don't know, but yeah, it's far from being done, but we are at a crossroads. Something has to get done, in my opinion, one way or the other.
The book is Court Justice, the inside story of my battle against the NCAA. It's Ed O'Bannon is on the line with us. I hope you're in Vegas, Ed. I didn't want to say Vegas. I'm hoping. Bet the Heart 8 while you're out there. With Michael McCann, the forward by the great Jeremy Schaap. I guess the last question for you, Court Justice is the name of the book and all this fighting that you've done and in regard to this, and you say at some point you hope something is done, maybe even a boycott, or the kids just say, I'm not going to put the Alabama helmets on and go out there and play in your national championship game. But, boy, the level of courage that will be needed for that in social change in an era where Colin Kaepernick, I used to hear about Curt Flood. He was like a storybook figure to me. And now we've seen Colin Kaepernick come out. We know what happens when you fight the man in our country. Free speech ain't free. And I don't. That's an incredible level of courage that would take for 4 teams to get together 3 weeks from now at the Final Four and all 48 of those, 55 of those players, whomever, to say we're not going on the court. So you'll have at it. You guys figure it out until we get a new system. I can't imagine that happening, but it's going to take something like that. It's going to take courage, man.
Yeah, absolutely. I wouldn't recommend it. To be honest with you, that's a huge burden for young adults to carry.
Do you feel that burden? Do you feel that burden being the guy taking on the fight, Ed?
A little bit sometimes. It did. I wouldn't say overwhelm, but yes, I did feel it at times for sure.
Well, better in your 40s than maybe when you were 22 or 23 or 24, or even Colin Kaepernick, who's pushing 30 at this point. Different to handle a little later. I have found that with challenges as you get older, but, to put this on 20 and 21 and 22-year-old kids who are just trying to get their chance at the NBA or their chance at the NFL, it really is a lot to ask. It's a tough circumstance, I think, for them.
Yeah, it is. It really is. Me, I'm in my mid-40s. I'm a part of this. I can, if a job opportunity, washes away, blows away in the wind because I'm a part of this. Hey, I have a job. I'm okay. But to be in your late, teens and early 20s to do something like that, that's a tall order. It would take something like that to happen for them, but it's a tall order to ask.
What's your real life like? What do you do these days? You still root for UCLA? You still like basketball, or are you soured on some of it, part of it, any of it?
No, not at all. None whatsoever. I was watching my Bruins play yesterday. I am in Vegas. And went to the Pac-12 tournament. My Bruins beat the Stanford Cardinal yesterday. So I watch as much as I can. I'm a huge basketball fan. I love the sport. Have a passion for it. Easygoing guy, easygoing life. Not too much going on with me.
Man, you hung out at UCLA. The legend of Walton and Wooden and all that there is rubbing off on you. Hey, man, a lot of courage, dude. A real honor to chat with you, and an honor to have your book in my hand. I'm going to certainly finger through it and give it a read. It's a good time of the year for those who are questioning all of this and saying, So appreciate all that you've done, and we'll stay in touch, Ed.
My pleasure. Thank you very much for having me on your show.
You got it, man.
Absolutely.
Ed O'Bannon with Michael McCann. The book is Court Justice, the inside story of my battle against the NCAA. I have been following this story for the better part of a decade, really as long as I've been on the radio. Every year around this time, we watch these guys dribble around, and I go, Howard Bank is here. They got a relentless commitment to be the best at everything they do. If you haven't heard the news with First Mariner, they're taking over a bunch of locations, branches throughout Baltimore and Maryland. The unique hands-on approach to banking. You're going to learn more about that at Howard Bank and howardbank.com. I'm wearing my Maryland Pizza John's hat here on the old YouTube, Facebook Live channel. My mom's favorite pizza, my wife's favorite pizza. I eat it. if not weekly, bi-weekly. Somebody said I'm hanging out there too much. I still look good, working out a little bit. But I did roll me through a cheesesteak with some mushrooms, some fried onions, lettuce, tomato, easy mayo, fresh buns, Pizza John's. Get down to Back River Neck Road. Find out why they've been doing it for 50 years. They do it pretty well. And I got a nice hat, too. Royal Farms, real fresh, real fast. Download the app. Make sure you're using that when you're gassing up. It's going to save you some dough on Western fries, some fried chicken. I had some chicken last week. I liked it. Tasty, crispy. When I'm in a pinch and I'm like, what are we going to have for dinner tonight? Let's have some Western fries and fried chicken from Rofa. Okay. Tasty coffee. Get that Kona blend in the morning. Real fresh, real fast. Make sure you're using the app and scoring those points. I've been doing that as well. Nasty at WNST.net finds me. We are out in the buyatoyota.com audio vault 24 hours a day from anywhere in the world on your mobile device by downloading the TuneIn Radio app. We come in crystal clear from anywhere in the world. Big thanks to our friends at buyatoyota.com. Morning newspaper ships directly to your email inbox each and every morning at 7 a.m. It's all brought to you by Planet Fitness at planetfitness.com, where it's still $10 a month to get in the best shape of your life, guaranteed. Of course, the morning newspaper now has the Maryland Jockey Club entries for Laurel now, Pimlico later, Laurel after that. Racing going on the weekends. It's in the morning newspaper as well as on the front of our website. Coons Ford Security Boulevard sponsors our WNST Tech Service. Any breaking news? We're a week out now on the start of NFL free agency. We're going to have that going on all week long. So when that happens and the tampering happens, you'll get the news first on the WNST Tech Service. It's all brought to you by Coons Ford of Security Boulevard. Dennis Kolatzos will be here on Thursday, driving you home from 3 until 5. It is the SSV on WNST. Nasty at WNST.net finds me. Facebook, Twitter, LinkedIn, Snapchat, Instagram, streaming live right here on our Facebook Live as well as our YouTube WNSTV channel. We are WNST.net, AM 1570 and WNST Towson, Baltimore, and we never stop talking Baltimore sports.